guys, it's Kayla. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for clicking on this video. I appreciate your support so much. Today I'm going to be filming a concealer tips video. If you see me looking down a lot, I have a bunch of things written down just so I can have my thoughts all organized and have this video flow a little better for you guys. So if you struggle with your concealer and need some tips and help, then this video is for you. I know I've been struggling with dark circles my whole life, and I've been, practicing different techniques and different ways and watching videos since I was probably like 15 or 16. I've tried out different concealers, so I have a lot of tips here for you. And this is just what has worked for me and what I do. So whatever works for me might not work for you, but I just want to give you my tips on what I do because I think it might help some people out there that struggle with trying to get the coverage that they need, the longevity. Remember, I upload every Tuesday and Thursday, so please subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it, and just hit that notification bell just to see when I upload. So if you want to see more about my concealer tips, then just keep watching. So the first category that I'm going to focus on is starting off with a good base. You want to make sure that you have a good moisturized base before you're applying your foundation and concealer, and this will apply for your foundation as well. So what I do is I just make sure I use a really good moisturizer all over my face and make sure that settles in, and probably about for like 2 or 3 minutes. Once it's all moisturized and settled in, I do go in with a nice moisturizing setting spray. You don't have to do this, but I just like to make sure it's very moisturized. So I spray that all over my face, and then what I do is I kind of rub that in and massage that into my face. And then last, I also make sure that I have a good primer. You want to make sure you have a good smoothing primer or a long-lasting primer that will make it look smooth and make everything go on very smoothly. The one that I'm using now is actually by Hard Candy. I believe it's a grip primer. It's in a blue tube. Also, the e.l.f. Putty Poreless Primer is a great one. I would highly recommend that one. That will make your concealer go on so smooth and your foundation just looks so smooth. So I would highly recommend a good smoothing primer to make sure everything looks good and stays in place. The next category that I'm going to focus on is finding a good concealer. So you want to make sure you do not go with a light coverage concealer because you will not get any coverage from that at all. You want to make sure it's a medium to full coverage concealer so that you're getting that coverage and that your dark circles are going to be covered. And you also want to make sure that you get the correct shade. Now, I know it's hard to find shades, but what you can go by is to make sure that is one shade lighter than your foundation. You don't want it to be too light. If you get a concealer that's too light, it's going to create a gray cast underneath your eyes, and we're trying to avoid the darkness, so you're just making it more dark, and we don't want that at all. So like I said, just make sure it is a shade lighter than your foundation so you get a little bit of that brightness and pops a little more. But you're not going too light where it's just too brightened. And then when you conceal blemishes on your face, I would use a concealer that is the same color as your foundation, just so you don't want those highlighted because they will pop out more, and using a lighter concealer will highlight them. So just make sure it is the same color as your foundation. The one that I use is a shade lighter than my foundation, and I don't have any problems with that because it's not too brightening. Just make sure it's not a brightening shade because that will make the pimple or zit pop out even more at people, and we don't want that, obviously, or we don't want it highlighted. So the third category that I'm going to focus on is application. So you do want to make sure you're applying it the right way. There is a wrong way to apply it if you're trying to get coverage. I know some people don't need as much, so they apply it in a different way. But how I apply it is I just take my concealer and I do it in a triangle. It's going to brighten up the area and make everything kind of look cohesive on your face and put together once you blend it. And it will make your eyes pop a little bit more. I also make sure that I go into the inner corners just because if you have dark circles, a lot of the time it goes into the inner corner. My eyes are kind of set back a little bit, so that's what makes it look even darker. And if you have that issue, just make sure that you go in the inner corner. And I also go on top of my eyelid just because I noticed that helps my eyeshadow last a little bit longer. So I actually put it all around this area, and I do bring it down my nose for highlighting, and my chin and my cupid's bow. So I do that for highlighting purposes, but you don't have to do that. Obviously, everybody has a different way of doing things, but that's the way I do it. And then also, when I start blending it in, I make sure to do a patting motion, and I've showed you guys this in my other videos before. I do this because if you rub the concealer or kind of blend it back and forth like this, it's gonna go away and it's not gonna stay where you put it. You want it to stay where you put it. I just do fast patting motions until everything's all blended out. And then after that, I go in with another, probably just like a dot of concealer. And what you have to do is just work your way up to the full coverage. Sometimes if it's a medium coverage concealer and you want that full coverage, sometimes you do have to work it up. So I would suggest going in with a light layer and then seeing what it looks like after that, because sometimes if you instantly just go in with tons, you might have used too much, and then that's what gets you that cakey look. So highly recommend going in with a light layer and then build up after that. If you think that it needs more, put another light layer, blend it in, and see how it looks from there. Also, if you're looking for fuller coverage and you don't want to go in with tons of concealer, another trick that I've learned is when you first apply your concealer, so you dab it on and then do not blend. Wait 5 minutes and then blend it in. That is supposed to make it more full coverage. So that is another tip that works as well. Just let it sit and then blend. Like I said, I would say about maybe 5 minutes, maybe a little less than that, and it should give you a little bit fuller coverage so that you don't have to go in with another layer after that. So definitely recommend using that tip. It definitely helps a lot. If you're also having problems with your concealer being cakey or looking drying, what I would recommend is going in with a moisturizer and mixing it, maybe on the back of your hand, just going in with a moisturizer, that on your hand first, put the concealer on top of that, mix it together, and then put it under your eyes. And that will make it less cakey and it will give it that moisturizing factor that you need so that your eyes don't look too cakey and dry underneath. So definitely recommend doing that as well. It will definitely help that dryness go away and your concealer will be more blendable. The last category that I'm going to focus on is longevity of your concealer. If you're having problems with it lasting all day, like I said before, just make sure you put on a primer and bring it up under your eyes, because that will make your concealer last longer as well. Some people just put it all around their face and don't think to put it on their under eyes. So just make sure you bring it up under your under eyes. It will benefit your concealer as well. And then the next thing that I highly recommend, I know a lot of people don't do this because they don't like the feeling of it, but for me, it's what keeps it locked in all day and it doesn't move. So I take a translucent powder and I pat it under my eyes. Now I use a light layer of it. Don't use too many layers, because I noticed when I've done that before, it looks cakey, it feels dry, and I can just feel the dryness. And when I look up close, I can see all the dryness. So I use the Coty Airspun powder and I just take a light layer of that. I tap off the excess powder off of the brush and then I go in and just pat it in. Don't forget the inner corner as well. And that's what keeps everything in place for me. It doesn't budge, it doesn't move at all, and it doesn't rub away. So that is something that I highly recommend, is to set it in place. It will stay all day for you and it will not go anywhere. And also, I would not use a powder that has a color to it because it might alter the color. The translucent powder does not do that. It just keeps the color that you had there already, so it doesn't darken it, it doesn't lighten it, it doesn't do any of that. So that is it for my concealer tips. I hope it really helped you guys, especially if you're struggling with any of these categories with your concealer, because I know I have over time struggled with all of these and trying to get it to last all day, trying to get the full coverage there. And I know concealers have improved a lot since I was 16. So, you know, there's lots of great concealers out there. You do not have to spend tons of money on them. CoverGirl has one, e.l.f. has one, Milani. There's so many that you can find at the drugstore that you can use that will give you that full coverage and you don't have to spend tons of money. So just let me know if you guys have any other tips down below that you can, you know, give me, because I could always improve my concealer tips and what I need to do to get my concealer to look better. So just let me know if you guys have any tips down below. You know, I'd really appreciate it. It would definitely help everybody that watches this video and it would help me. So like I said, I hope these tips helped you guys and can step up your concealer game, you know, a little bit more and make you feel more confident. Like I said before, remember I upload every Tuesday and Thursday, so please consider subscribing to my channel. I would greatly appreciate it, and just hit that notification bell just to see when I upload. All right, guys, I will see you in my next video. Bye.